Welcome to Coffee with Clover. I'm your host, Clover Sterling. Thanks for joining us. Please help me welcome my first guest, here to focus on millennials and money. She's President and Chief Financial Fitness Trainer, also producer and host of Young Money Podcast, Tracy Bissett.
Thank you.
Tracy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so great to be here today.
Okay. You've been dealing with money for a number of years, and having dealt with numerous people on different levels, how do you find it dealing with millennials?
I find it really rewarding. I teach part-time as well in my business, so I'm working with that age group regularly, and I find a lot of natural curiosity and a lot of misconceptions about money, so I'm really happy to be able to clear some of those things up for people.
What's one of their main misconceptions?
One of them being that investing, it has to be really risky, and you have to have a lot of money to do investing.
Are they scared, or do you find them more of an aggressor?
I find that they're generally very conservative. They want to make sure that they're putting their money into the right things. One of the biggest problems today is that millennials are facing so much student debt that they're carrying. And so it's hard for them to have money for savings, and when they do, they want to make sure that they're putting it into the right things.
Okay. Having a lot of student debts would be due to student loans, university, college, whatever they're studying. How do you help them to keep that in check?
So just to give you a little bit of background, average student when they come out of post-secondary education is carrying at least $25,000 in student debt from all those sources that you mentioned. They're also carrying at least a $3,000 credit card balance. And a lot of the young people, when they're going through post-secondary education, think it's a source of cash and not really something you have to pay back. And so when they come out of school and we talk about how much debt they're carrying, it's important that they find jobs. They're going to either have incomes at the level that they're going to be able to repay them with when they first come out of school, or they're going to be able to work their way up to that. Really important for them to get a sense of what are their wants versus their needs. Depending on their family situation, they may have had a lifestyle that afforded them a lot more things than they can on their actual own salary once they get working. And so figuring out what are the important things for them, helping them to make a budget as well as a cash flow. And so the difference between a budget and a cash flow, budget's all the money coming in and all your expenses. The cash flow is actually when it's going to hit your bank account.
Are they really taking your advice though and follow through so that they can get out of the red?
I think it depends how motivated the individual is. Most people realize that financials and financial matters impact every area of their life. And so if you get a handle on it as early as you can, then you can go on to do whatever you want in your life. You can travel, you can buy a home, you can set up your own business if that's something that you choose, have the car you want, be able to have the lifestyle that you want. But until you've got your finances under control, it's really hard for you to put yourself in that driver's seat.
Talking about wanting to buy a home, do you find them have the pressing need to say, I need to own a home before I'm at a certain age, or based on what they're making now?
I think that for a lot of young people, there's disillusionment, and they may think that it's out of reach for them. And that could be because they don't have a good sense of how to pay back the debt that they already have, and then how to save for the future.
What's it, a workshop that you do with them? What's a typical workshop like when you sit down with a millennial to say, okay, this is where you're at, this is where we want to get to?
For the most part, I do one-on-one because there's different needs that each one has, and so I want it to be really tailored for them. They're usually short on time, short on focus, and so want to make it as most meaningful for them as I can.
And have you gotten any success stories after they've left your advice, they've left your presence and use your advice to their best advantage?
Absolutely. So people who stick with the budget generally see a reduction in their debt. They immediately start a savings plan. One of the most basic tenets of finance is compound interest. So even when you're young, if you can save $10 a month, put it towards your retirement or put it towards saving for a down payment, that interest on interest as your money continues to grow is really critical. And so to see people take that step and do it immediately is really important. I had a few individuals reach out to me right before the RSP deadline, so the Registered Retirement Savings Plan deadline this year, both in their mid-20s. One had student debt, and they were trying to figure out if they should invest in their RSP or pay down their student debt. And so we talked through some strategies based on what's permitted with the government rules, and they actually decided to put the money into the RSP, take their tax refund, and then pay down their student debt. Another situation, same age group, mid-20s, they were trying to save up for school. They're going to be quitting their job and go on to do an MBA. And they too were looking into how should I best save for retirement so that I can use those funds for then paying for school. Because one of the benefits of having an RSP is if you put your money in it, you can withdraw through the learning program to pay for your tuition.
Definitely. And that is so rewarding for them at that young age.
Absolutely.
Having to put their money aside now for later. It's time to take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. So Tracy, you host a podcast and you talk money.
Absolutely. So it's called Young Money with Tracy Bissett, the advice show for young millionaires in the making.
Have you encountered millionaires? Do they call in or you just host giving advice?
It's a weekly show. It's targeted for 18 to 30-ish adults, and it's also for people who love them or care about them. So I have a lot of parents tuning in, grandparents and educators who want to help those young people make the best decisions.
Are they listening though?
Yes.
Have you had them call in to say or send you an email to say they've listened and they'll be using your advice to the best of their advantage?
Absolutely. So I see the number in the downloads, I see emails, and I see reviews for the show. And so the show is weekly. It's on iTunes or Google Play Music, and it alternates either between an interview with someone who's giving advice for them, like a financial planner, a real estate agent, people like that, so they can learn renting versus buying, get some tools and tips for that, versus a training that I do, a really targeted training. So last week's episode was all about the true cost of owning a car. So it's not just about that car payment, but everything you've got to think about. So really just a crash course in financial education.
I'm curious though, what's one of the main questions they'll be asking?
How to pay down student debt the fastest.
Wow. And what do you say to them?
I ask them to get really clear about the things that they need to have in their life, cut out a lot of the wants, and pay down aggressively.
Do you have them calling in at the same time, or is it just older adults that are giving advice and they're listening in?
It's not a call-in show because it's a pre-recorded podcast, but young people. So I work with my students. They give me ideas for shows, and they're telling me what they're looking at.
That's great.
So a lot of the students I have at Centennial College, they're working sometimes multiple jobs. They're doing 7, 8 courses, so really heavy workloads. And I know they feel that financial burden of not having enough funds, and then they're worried about what's going to happen when they get out of school.
Because it's hard to transition from school with the student debt, going into the workforce, getting your first salary, and then having to start paying down.
Absolutely.
How do you advise a millennial to deal with that?
To figure out what is your budget, how much money are you making, where do you want to be in your life, what are your goals, and to really focus in on that and just spend money on the things that are important to you. It's very tempting to go out and get the latest fashions, latest shoes, latest handbags, to be spending a lot of money on eating out or to have a fancy car. But if you get serious early, focus on what you really want to do, you pay down the debt, and then you can move on to doing other things with your life.
Another thing that's scary too, the credit cards.
Absolutely.
How do they use their credit cards?
So in my opinion, credit cards are not good or bad. It's all in how you use them. When I see students take them on campus, they're generally taking them because they're short on funds. They generally come out of post-secondary education with $3,000 in credit card debt, and they're using it like a bank machine. And so they're not realizing that there's going to be repayment attached to that. The biggest thing that will affect them if they don't make those minimum payments and don't pay off the balance, their credit score is going to be impacted. And so a lot of students may come out with challenges affecting their credit score. And so I encourage everyone, no matter what age you are, to annually check your credit score. You can do that free through Equifax or TransUnion, and make sure you know you haven't been a victim of identity theft, you know everything that's on there, and if your score is weak, do some things to improve it.
How do you protect against identity theft?
You don't share your financial information online. You don't leave your ID around where anybody can see it. I actually happened to see on social media someone was so excited they got a credit card. So they put a picture of it on Facebook with the numbers and everything, and someone was able to go out and recreate that card and then put purchases against it.
What happens in cases like that?
So you're going to go to your credit card provider and let them know what happened. You go as soon as possible, report it. If things get stolen, you report them as soon as possible.
So Tracy, you've used a new term to describe what you do, your financial fitness.
Absolutely.
How is that?
Well, the easiest way I can explain is if you think about physical fitness. So we have an analogy with the physical fitness to the financial fitness. So you could be just starting to get off the couch, take that first walk around the block, so you're really new to physical fitness. Just like with financial fitness, you could be just starting to learn about the basic concepts. Maybe you haven't learned them in school, maybe you forgot. So you're going to learn the basics for budgeting, managing your cash flow, your bank accounts. Or just like physical fitness, you could be really great at it. You're training for a marathon. With financial fitness, you could be training and going to become a more sophisticated investor. So I really like thinking about it on that spectrum of financial fitness, because you can be just starting or even more sophisticated investor, and there's room for everyone in between. There's no need to feel uncomfortable or bad because you don't know things, and it's all really positive because it's just about improving where you are on that spectrum.
You're right, because when you do fitness, you feel good within yourself. So to be debt-free, or using your financial issues in a right path is freedom.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
My goal with my business that does financial management and financial consulting is to empower people to take control of their finances for whatever that means for them. For them to make their own decisions and to live the kind of life they want to live.
And how can they get in touch with you?
You can check out my website, bissettfinancialfitness.com. You can check out the podcast, Young Money with Tracy Bissett, absolutely free on iTunes and Google Play Music. Or you can look me up on LinkedIn, Tracy Bissett.
Thank you, Tracy. Thanks for sharing this information with us. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more. Welcome back. My next guest has a determination for helping the youth in her community grow to success. She's the coordinator and founder of Peel Poverty Action Plan. Please help me welcome Katherine Soplet. Katherine, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Clover. I'm so excited to be here.
It's nice to have you. So you are the founder of the Citizens Apprenticeship Program in Peel.
Yes, so this is not a program yet. It's a program that for which I have been developing a 3-year pilot project. So Citizen Apprenticeship would help youth learn and earn their way to post-secondary education. And what I envision is a hub, a tutor hub in a public library, so that when the youth are tutoring, they can bank their hours on the report card. And when they use the report card to apply for higher education or for training in apprenticeship programs, that the hours would convert to cash.
Is it in the making or has it started?
It is in the making.
It's in the making.
So I have a letter of support from the Peel District School Board and from the Mississauga Library Services Board. They are very interested to consider the potential, and what I have to do is organize through my new not-for-profit an application for grants and to put together an evaluation team, and together with tutors from the high schools and a cooperation of a number of other community stakeholders who likewise want to see the youth do well.
So who are the youths that will be attending this program?
So in order to do the evaluation project, the 3-year pilot would focus on high school students. And why is high school students? Because many of them are wanting to have their community hours. Many of them are wanting to improve their grades so that they can get scholarships and bursaries. And it's a way for youth to help students who are younger than them, but also potentially people who are older than them. So not just about school curriculum, but also about language fluency and IT literacy. For example.
Okay, as you say, the curriculum, will it be the same as the high school?
Yes, so this would be students that would be referred for assistance at the tutor hub. And this is where the collaboration with the Peel District School Board is essential.
So you make emphasis on students that are in high school. What about dropouts? Do they have a chance?
Certainly they would have a chance, but for the purpose of the pilot in a 3-year evaluation, that would not be the opening position. The opening position is to create the lab in a public library with high school students to test the method. And then after the first year, perhaps in the second year, we would be able to include other groups in the mix.
How far are you now in the taking off?
I have the not-for-profit, I have a board of directors, I have people who are interested to do the evaluation. We have an election coming. I've made 5 presentations to the Standing Committee on Finance, to the Ontario government, and people know in the time of the election that Katherine Soplet and her supporters are going to be coming along.
So you know for sure that this is going to get off the ground, right?
It is going to happen.
Definitely.
Yes.
How soon do you see it happening? Before this year ends?
I believe that there will be an announcement in the fall.
In the fall, because you're working hard at it.
Yes.
Okay. So how did you get this great idea to start a tutor hub?
Well, Clover, I understand that that often students are helping students all the time. And especially when they're helping each other with homework or they're helping each other with language fluency, then they are adding value. And if you don't have money, then you can't go to post-secondary education. So the story behind how I came to understand envision this program occurred in a snowstorm.
Oh, definitely.
Yes, because
Okay.
like all good Canadian stories, we have to start with a snowstorm.
Yes.
So I was a rehearsal pianist for a school choir in the southwest of Mississauga, and there was a snowstorm. It was January, and in December, we had gone with the choir and taken first place in a festival. So the kids came streaming in because they had taken the bus to school, and the teacher couldn't get in because she lived in Halton and she couldn't come in on the icy roads. So we just ripped through our repertoire, and then the bell rang and all the kids went out, and I was very happy, and then I was suddenly very sad.
Because you were observing all this that was happening, right?
That's right.
What were your thoughts at the time?
So the kids were very special because many of them were newcomers. And many of them, in the context now of 2006 and Canadian Idol, they were feeling that they were, very proud and engaged. And but I also knew that they didn't have any money. They were busy helping each other, learning language, and settling in. But without money, they wouldn't have music in high school, and they wouldn't be able to get to post-secondary education.
Right. So what was your thought at the initial moment? I gotta help these children.
I have to help these children. These children are helping themselves. They are not being recognized. We need to capture the time that turns into money and give it back to them.
Okay. We'll take a short break. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more. Welcome back. So, Katherine, after observing the children on the snowstorm day,
Yes.
what inspired you?
Well, there is a terrific story about my grandfather, who was actually, I have a photo of him. This is a photo of my grandfather on the cover of the book of Vimy, the paperback version that was published by Pierre Berton. So the story of my grandfather is that he was born in a fishing village of 16 people, and he went off to war, and he didn't see a school actually until he came back from the war as a war hero. And there was no really quality public education at the time.
That's in Canada, right?
In St. John's, Newfoundland.
Okay.
Yes. And so because he was a hero, then the local civic people fundraised so that he could go to school at Bishop Field College, and he boarded with the headmaster. So what my grandfather did in 1925, after he finished his schooling as an adult then of some 24 years, he apprenticed as a pharmacist, and 10 years after that, he opened up a drugstore in St. John's. Mm-hmm. And what he would do is he would let the kids come to his shop, the drugstore, and he would let them read comic books. So what we need to understand is that in St. John's, there was no public library until 1937, and you can be sure that if there was a public library, that children with dirty hands would not be permitted to go into the library.
So based on what you did, you thought it's important that you give back to your community.
That's right. It is the same example. By having the children help the other children, this is very important. So I found out last month, in fact, in February, that there is a senior now in Bonavista Bay who has 16,000 comic books. And he started his collection when he was 7 years old at my granddad's drugstore.
Okay, so he was around when your granddad was helping the community. This collection of books are from where? From your grandfather?
He started collecting his comic books from the drugstore of my grandfather, and he went on as an adult then to complete his schooling and to further have this collection of 16,000 comic books. It was reported by CBC.
Okay, so that's an inspiration for him.
Yes.
To be going on. What do you gather from that?
I believe that we have to continue sharing the learning, and comic books are a way for literacy. Libraries are a way for literacy, and sharing the learning is what it makes all of us better.
It's interesting you're reaching out to youth in your community. How would you like to see it? Like other community adapting what you're doing, or you could go out in other community and spread the word?
Well, first of all, people can find me on Facebook, or they can follow me on Twitter @Soplet. There's a website under construction, so I'm going to be developing a newsletter out of that website. Everyone can get a public library card to support the public library. And in the region of Peel, we have something called the Peel Youth Charter, which has recently been newly and continued endorsed by the region of Peel, the cities of Mississauga, Brampton, the town of Caledon, the 2 school boards, and the Police Services Board, where they say we want everything for safety, health, education, and future jobs for youth, and this project will help deliver those sentiments.
How far do you think this project will go?
I believe that by 2020, there's going to be a tutor hub in every province and territory across Canada.
So will there be a launch? Will you be launching it officially?
Well, first of all, I have to get the first year of the first pilot project located, and I expect that there will be an announcement in the fall.
This fall?
Yes.
Wow, how do you feel about that?
Well, I feel very excited because this project will gain some spotlight in the provincial election, certainly in the municipal election in Peel, and definitely in the federal election if I have anything to do with it.
Okay, Katherine, thank you very much for working in the community with our youth and coming on to encourage others that it is possible no matter what. And that's it for Coffee with Clover. Join us again next time for coffee and conversation. Thanks for watching.